Shalom. All praises to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well and labor in the word and doctrine. Shalom lebachia, peace to the elect. Now this, I'm not sure I'm going to title this, but just concerning head coverings, and I'm sure I'll branch out into a couple of things. But it came from a discussion I was having with a brother. 1 Corinthians 11 and 4. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoureth his head. And the brother said, well, is it a law? I said, it's not a Mosaic law, but it's the doctrine of Yahawashi. And he said, well, when was that taught? Or when did he teach that? Something to that effect. And I said, well, he didn't teach it in the, I didn't say this, but he didn't teach it in the synoptic gospels, whatever they call it. I think that's only a couple of them, but Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But it was taught by Paul, who was taught directly by Yahawashi. And Paul taught the doctrine of Yahawashi. He taught the gospel. So unless we're saying Paul is self-willed and just sort of making it up, then it's Yahawashi's doctrine. And he said, well, the Messiah never taught that, or Christ never taught that. John 21 and 25. And there are also many other things which Yahawashi did, the which, if they should be written, every one, I suppose, that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. Amen. So in terms of his works, in terms of his preaching, in terms of everything that he did from birth unto death, unto resurrection, ascension, not every single thing he did, every single act of his life is chronicled. Now what is the implicit comment about Paul then? If Yahawashi, he's saying effectively we're not supposed to follow this because it's not in the Gospels verbatim like that. So what are we saying about Paul? Did Paul just make it up? So you've got 1 Corinthians and certain places, what is it, 7 and 7? Where's that? I know it's 2 Corinthians 8 and 8. We'll get that. It said, I speak not by commandment, but by occasion of the forwardness of others, and to prove the sincerity of your love. Certain places he spoke of not speaking by commandment. But what is he speaking by in this then? And we also have where he said, well, these are definitely commandments. So you have to be able to balance the two. As it says there, 1 Corinthians 14 and 40. Let all things be done decently and in order. And the main thing is, well, if that's written, what is it in you that makes you not want to keep that? Like, it's such a simple thing to do. 1 Corinthians 14 and 37. If any man think himself, Salaki, we'll start at 36. What, came the word of Yahawah out from you, or came it unto you only? If any man think himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things that I write unto you are the commandments of the Lord. But if any man be ignorant, let him be ignorant. And it stops then, it's got a context line, definer, marker, whatever. So you have that Paul saying the things that he's writing here are in that, well, it's in the same book, but the thing he's writing in one place is a commandment. The thing he said he's speaking by permission in another place. So what does that make this? If it's not the doctrine of Yahawashi, is he being self-willed? Is he adding onto it? What is he doing with it? Are you saying he wasn't taught this? And then we have certain scriptures that how do we even begin to get into these if we can just push Paul off to the side or whatever? 2 Thessalonians 2 and 13. But we are bound to give thanks always to Yahawah for you, brethren, beloved of the Lord, because Yahawah hath from the beginning chosen you to salvation through sanctification of the Spirit and belief of the truth. And Paul taught the truth. He taught the gospel, the doctrine of Yahawashi. It said, 2 Thessalonians 2 and 14, whereunto he called you by our gospel. You see that gospel again, which he's always glorifying what name? Yahawashi's name. So unless you're saying he's coming up with this by himself, then what are you saying? Whereunto he called you by our gospel to the obtaining of the glory of our Lord Yahawashi HaMashiach, Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which ye have been taught, whether by word or our epistle. Now, do we have to do that? Is that something that's advisable, that's spiritual, that is of the Lord, or is part of the Lord's doctrine? Or are we picking and choosing and saying, nah, man, well, Yahawashi never said that verbatim, even though it says everything that Yahawashi did hasn't been chronicled in this book. So he could well have said that, but it's a matter of speculation, really. It's because it's an absence of Yahawashi saying it verbatim, but then the person who was taught by Yahawashi said it, and we're finding reasons to go against it, man. Not we personally, but you are. So, brethren, therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which you've been taught, whether by word or our epistle. So even if you're not acknowledging it to be a commandment, well, it's a tradition. And Paul is saying to follow the traditions. Now look at this, 2 Thessalonians 3:6. Now we command you, is that a commandment? Now we command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Yahawashi HaMashiach, that ye withdraw yourselves from every brother that walketh disorderly, and not after the tradition which he received of us. So now that is a commandment. There's no way around. Well, Paul said, this I speak not by commandment. He says, now we command you, brethren, in the name, here's my cat, say shalom. There you are. Salakia. 2 Thessalonians 3:16. Now we command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Yahawashi HaMashiach, that ye withdraw yourselves from every brother that walketh disorderly, and not after the tradition which he received of us. And yeah, we'll go into this real quick. Let's find the disorderly. Attaktos.
G814.
Attaktos, Salaki. Right, attaktos. Disorderly, out of ranks, often so of soldiers. And what does it say in 2 Timothy 4:5? Endure hardness as a good soldier. 2, irregular, inordinate, immoderate pleasures, deviating from the prescribed order or rule. And where are we compared to Paul in the prescribed order or rule? Can we just pick and choose with that and say, in fact, well, in what I've read of what Yahawashi did, he never said that. So this person that was taught by Yahawashi, obviously, we just disregard it then. How is that? Where is the ranks there? How do we marry the two, if you like? The tradition is the paradosis.
Strong's G 3862.
Paradosis. Giving over, the act of giving up, the surrender of cities, a giving over which is done by word of mouth or in writing, i.e. tradition, and by instruction, narrative, precept, etc. It says objectively that which is delivered, the substance of a teaching, and there you are, the gospel of Yahawashi was magnified by Paul as well. Oh, it was further pushed out by Paul. That was the substance of the teaching of Yahawashi. That was his doctrine, the same doctrine. B, of the body of precepts, especially ritual, which in the opinion of the later Jews were orally delivered by Moses and orally transmitted in unbroken succession to subsequent generations, with precepts, both illustrating and expanding the written law as they did, were to be obeyed with equal reverence. Now you had traditions that Yahawashi went against. But when Paul, for example, Philippians 2:2, 1 Corinthians 1:10 talking about speaking the same thing, are we then to assume that Paul is just going off, he's being a hypocrite, he's not speaking the same thing, he's not speaking as he was taught by Yahawashi, he's just sort of making it up? Because that's not what you're saying verbatim, but the implied meaning to that is, well, we don't have to do whatever Paul said if Yahawashi didn't say it verbatim. We can't find Yahawashi saying it verbatim. There you are. Mark 7 and 8, it says, for laying aside the commandment of Yahawah, ye hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups and many other such like things you do. So it's not in transgression of the law of Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi. There's no way you can try and go for that angle either. Yahawashi went against traditions, but Yahawashi also taught traditions. Even the drinking of the blood and the body we do in remembrance of him. He taught that. Paul talks about that in 1 Corinthians 11 as well, if I'm not mistaken, toward the end of it. We'll just get that real quick, because I have remembered something in 1 Corinthians 11 the brother asked that I didn't touch on. Yep. See, so this is 1 Corinthians 11 and 23. For I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Yahawashi, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And he goes on to expand upon it, but it says he received of the Lord that which he also delivered. When you get into this word received real quick. Received, paralambano. Let's just see if that's the same word. There you are. 2 Thessalonians 3 and 6. Now we command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Yahawashi HaMashiach, that you withdraw yourselves from every brother that walketh disorderly, and not after the tradition which he received of us. And it said that Paul, this is what he received of Yahawashi, or Salaki, what people received from him is what he received of Yahawashi, and vice versa, really. So he's not making it up. And what witness are we going against Paul to imply that? That's what I find a problem. 1 Thessalonians 11 and 16. Oh yeah. It says, but if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of Yahawah. So to be contentious would be to do what the brother's doing and go against what Paul is saying in it. Philonikos, fond of strife. It basically means strife loving, actually. Like Philadelphia means brotherly love. Adelphos meaning brother. Fond of strife, contentious in a good sense, emulous. Right, so it's only used once. Nikos, victory, totally vanquish. Oh yeah, like Nike, the shoe Nike. I think they go back to that. And however they say it, but a fake idol that anyway. And just look at some translation comparisons before getting back to the idea of a tradition. I'll just leave them there. Yep. Let me get us into the Greek and the Chinese, and we stop there. Right, cool. What was I going into? 2 Thessalonians 3, I think. So how you have it there as well. 2 Thessalonians 3 and 13. But ye, brethren, be not weary in well-doing, and if any man obey not our word by this epistle, note that man, and have no company with him, that he may be ashamed. Yet count him not as an enemy, but admonish him as a brother. So really this is admonishment. But what it clearly says, according to the doctrine of what Paul taught, that to withdraw yourself from a brother that doesn't keep the same tradition. And going into these epistles here, it's literally talking about the epistle which he received of us. So how do we explain that? Do we ignore that part as well? And what does it say about them that come against it? What was written of that? Romans 16 and 17. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offences contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. And Paul was a big proponent of the doctrine of Yahawashi. A lot of things that he said in his epistles even. He's a big, what's the term? He's a big evangelist, man, preaching the gospel. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offences contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. For they that as such serve not our Lord Yahawashi HaMashiach, but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. So where would that make someone, or where would someone that denies that, oh no, we don't need to do that tradition which we've received of Paul, where would that make you fit in with all of this? Let's just check any last words on tradition here. See, it's not. Look, even Paul taught this. Colossians 2:8, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach. So we're saying that Paul's is a tradition of men and a rudiment of the world, and it's against the doctrine of Yahawashi, or is it for the doctrine of Yahawashi? There you are, 1 Corinthians 11:2 again. Now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. Do we not have to do that? There you are. And then you have Yahawashi cussing out the Pharisees because their traditions were not of his ilk. But Paul was doing the same thing. Paul was doing the same thing. Paul was going, well, don't keep this tradition in Colossians 2:8 if it's going to make you err. But he was saying, no, keep these traditions, they're good in the other sense. So that's that. I'll leave that there. Shalom to the elect. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. All praises to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi. Shalom.